Welcome to the Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Fit, the all-in-one AI-powered corporate wellness platform developed by Vantage Circle.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Dipshi, and today I have with me the co-founder and CEO of Ashish Kumar. An entrepreneur for life, Ashish brought his journalistic learnings to his calling as a wide spectrum communication coach, ranging from CXOs to shop floors to enabling unemployed youth to find jobs. He believes that coaching is one of the most effective and sustainable ways of skilling, and no one should be left uncoached. Welcome to the show, Ashish.
Thank you, Dipshi, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here on this show.
We are very glad to have you here today, Ashish. Thank you so much for giving us your valuable time. So before diving into the topic of today, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell them about your journey?
Sure. Happy to talk about that. I'll start right from the beginning. My career started in the newsroom. I worked with the Indian Express as a news reporter, then with the Statesman again as a news reporter, and a little bit on the desk. After spending some time in the newsroom, I did some social work. I had taken up an opportunity to help unemployed youth find better jobs by upskilling their communication skills. And that's where I realized that this was a lot more fun than the newsroom. And that's how I entered in the space of communication coaching. In 2008, my love for coaching transferred. So it evolved into more of a business opportunity. That's where my firm Vyakta was born. And since then, we've been working with large corporate organizations, helping their team members improve their what we call as communication fitness, so that they can perform better at their jobs. So that's pretty much all about me, Dipshi.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing your amazing journey with us, Ashish. So let's talk about today's topic, which is the role of habit building in fitness journeys. So how does the concept of habit building intersect with achieving long-term fitness goals?
It is absolutely critical. In fact, any fitness journey requires building the right habits.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm using fitness as a much wider term. It's not just about physical fitness. It could mean emotional. It could mean your general well-being. And like we call it as communication fitness, it follows the same sort of journey. In this, what happens is that, I'll talk in terms of my own fitness journey with mindfulness. So I used to struggle a lot in being mindful. I managed multiple roles. So I was a coach handling my own coaching clients. At the same time, I was running an organization. So there were typically any operations or any day-to-day activities that you had to manage. Then I also used to drive growth for the organization. So at any given point in time, there are too many things competing for my attention. And often I would feel that my attention was wandering from one place to another with very little control on that. And when I started my initial journey, I focused a lot on gaining knowledge. So I read a few books on mindfulness, went through a lot of videos, acquired significant amount of knowledge on mindfulness, but I was not becoming more mindful. So you see, this is a case where I had the awareness, I had the understanding, but it was not translating into any kind of behavior change. So that's where I started putting in some sort of habit practices in place. And the most important one, which has sustained now over a period of time, is to invest 10 minutes a day practicing mindfulness meditation. And it took me 5 aborted attempts to finally cultivate this habit. But once the habit was formed, then it has become effortless. And this brings in, so once you build a habit around it, there are two things that happen. You don't have to put in mental effort to do the exercise. You don't have to remember to go ahead and perform that activity. So that's number one. So you don't have to worry about, I don't have time for this. I have a lot of distractions. I don't have the resources. Once you build the habit, all these excuses vanish very quickly. And the second thing is that it also starts helping you. So the law of compounding comes in. Initially, maybe for the first 2 months, the benefits that you experience may not be commensurate to the effort you put in to build that habit. But 6 months down the line, a year down the line, the benefits that you experience uh, are far-reaching. It changes who you are. It transforms your personality. So that was my journey, and that's where I see that habit formation is critical to sustaining fitness journeys.
Hmm. Exactly. So, why is habit building considered a cornerstone of sustainable fitness progress?
Two reasons. Number one is that when we want to do something, either we have to be extremely disciplined by nature, and by now we know that the percentage of people who are that disciplined it would possibly be in single digits, right? So many of us, especially people like me, we don't have that sort of discipline, uh, or at least we are not able to apply that discipline in every walk of life. We may be able to do it in one or two areas, but fitness is not always a priority, and that's why we don't do it. So to bring down the conscious effort in doing something, habit building comes in. When the first 4 times I would try, I would see this as a task. I would see this as an intrusion in my time and space. But once the habit building happens, it goes on autopilot. So, number one is that the lack of discipline we have uh, doesn't remain a problem once you have built a habit around that. That's number one. Number two, forgetfulness. As in, there's so many things and we very easily forget. So we are all effort minimizing beings, right? We can take only so much cognitive load. So if it is a habit that you have formed, there is zero cognitive load now. So you don't need to remember, you don't need to rely on some kind of a reminder to do this. So that's why I feel that habit building is absolutely critical to any kind of fitness journey.
Mm-hmm. And I think it happens with everyone. So once we form a habit, we, like you said, the autopilot mode, right? So even, for example, going to the gym. So people who go to the gym, like they follow that routine with dedication, nobody can stop them from going to the gym, right?
Yeah, true. Once it has become a habit, it goes on autopilot, and it's different centers of brain that start operating, right?
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right about that, Shri.
And what are some key habits that individuals should focus on when embarking on a fitness journey?
Instead of talking about what habit somebody should inculcate, I think it is different for different people. What's more important to understand how habit building happens. Okay. In fact, Charles Duhigg, in his book The Power of Habits, describes it beautifully, that there is something called as a habit loop. So you need to have a cue. That cue should trigger a routine that you follow, and the end of that routine should have some kind of a reward, which makes you look forward to the cue the next time, right? And that's and the same book, he talks about the idea of a keystone habit. So each of us, if we try to build too many habits, if we have a long list of habits to cultivate, we would not even start because it seems too effortful at the beginning. So instead of understanding what habit should I follow because it is working for someone, it's important for individuals to discover their own keystone habit. Let me give you an example. So if you want to, and this is borrowed from, again, Duhigg's book, that someone wanted to lose weight, she would end up eating ice creams. She picked up one habit that she started going on a walk. Okay. And it worked for her because it fit in her routine. Otherwise, it allowed her that opportunity to socialize. And gradually, because she focused on one habit, the other bad habits started being replaced, right? So I think the the insight that I derived from there was that instead of thinking about what all habits I need to change or what all habits I need to cultivate, first think about what my bad habits are, because we always have some habits. So, what my bad habits are, those are coming in the way of this fitness journey. And then one thing that I can do which would help me replace some of these, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, subscribing to an app and sticking to that app on a regular basis was the thing that worked, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
subscribed to Headspace and I would spend 10 minutes on Headspace every day. And like I said, it took me 4 5 attempts, 3 4 times. I built a streak of 7 days, 8 days, 9 days, and I would end up not doing it. But by the fifth attempt, I could finally start building longer streaks, and then it became a habit. So we have to find out what our keystone habits. What is that one keystone habit that I can form and stick to it, which would gradually start replacing the other bad habits.
Mm-hmm. And what are the challenges that like people often face when trying to establish fitness related habits, and how can they overcome them?
I think, and I'll speak only from my experience and a few people I know, which may not be statistically significant, and some of it is borrowed knowledge that I've gained through reading. One thing is that if the sense of purpose is not very strong, my why is not very strong, then it becomes a major barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Many a times, cognitively, we understand, right? I understand that being fitter is going to help me longer life, better life, healthier, etc., etc., etc. Right? It's not a knowledge issue, but it does not. That purpose is not compelling enough for me to build that urgency, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the why for here and now, something that brings urgency, that is critical. That's why you would see that when people when they have a heart attack, they're more likely to start becoming conscious, right? Or a version of it. That's just one example. So only when you start realizing the cost, that not doing it also has a cost.
Mm-hmm.
So finding that cost of not doing, bringing a here and now purpose, bringing that sense of urgency, that's critical. If that is lacking, then we can always say that Acha, isko baat, we can do it afterwards, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy to defer it to another date in the future, and that's one major thing. The second thing is that uh, mentally we try and find reasons not to do it. We try and justify, we try and defend why this can't be done. I don't have the resources, I don't have the time, I don't have the company, I don't have the environment, I don't have the training in this, I don't have the background. In this, there are 100 possible reasons we come up with. And we start listening to that voice over and over, and that's why we are not able to sustain that journey. Often, the difficulty in doing it is short lived. It is difficult to start, but
Mm-hmm.
the difficulty is not long term. The moment you have done it for a period of time, it stops being difficult. In fact, it becomes exciting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing where the effort of starting is so intimidating that we find reasons why I cannot put in that effort.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the two most significant ones that I can think of. One is that how do I cultivate a sense of urgency, uh, find that purpose which is critical for me here and now, not some long term, intellectual purpose behind it. And the second thing is to remember that the difficulty is not forever. Initially, it may seem like it's too much of an effort, but that effort is only for the first few weeks. Then it becomes much easier.
Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, the beginning is the most important and the most difficult part, right? So once we start
Mm.
with it, we become consistent and continue with the process. But that one point where to start, that's the one which is the most difficult part.
Tolstoy said that if you want to be happy, be. If you want to start, start. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we all have to remember. If we wait for that ideal moment to start, then we would never do it. So it's important that we bring a bit of bias to action and start.
Mm-hmm. And how do external factors such as environment and social support influence the development of fitness habits?
Um, it I would say it varies from one individual to another. There are some people who are more intrinsically driven. So for them, what's happening outside does not have too much of an influence. For some people, it could be a good nudge, but depending on external factors, I feel does not build a long-term purpose. I might start doing it because others are doing it, but very soon I'll realize that I am not enjoying and it may not sustain. So I feel that external environment or the factor or any kind of influence that surrounds you, it's a good trigger point. It's a good nudge to start. We should very quickly find our own reasons to do it.
Exactly. And are there specific techniques or strategies you recommend for making fitness habits enjoyable and rewarding?
So the first thing that works, and now I'll borrow from the experience. So at Vani, we help people improve their communication fitness, and here also building that habit of practicing, or we call it as exercising your communication, is critical for transformation, and that's where we help people with a lot of practices to cultivate it. We see that for many people, the adoption rate in the first 2 3 weeks is not even 30 35%. The consistency is low. So the first thing is that it's important for people to think about what would be a breakthrough moment for them. Okay. Because once we have early breakthroughs, then our confidence in the process is reinforced. And then we are more likely to stick to it. And we have seen that in our case, our say week 15 16 adoption is 92 93%, which means that once people have had their breakthroughs and they have confidence in the process, nobody needs to tell them to go and practice. They start doing it on their own. So the early stages, we have to be mindful that we look for those small wins. The big transformation takes time. It requires that compounding effect. But small wins can be experienced early on, right? So when I started my mindfulness journey, my first few breakthroughs, number one, I realized that in a high pressure meeting, I was feeling less agitated. And in fact, one or two meetings, I was able to turn it around because I was aware of what's happening and what is my emotional response to it, and how do I need to manage, and how do I need to, maneuver through that conversation. And that's where I realized that this is really working for me. And so that small win was critical. And then I started looking forward to such small wins. So defining your small wins, celebrating it when you find that, understanding where your early breakthroughs are happening. These are some of the bits that I would suggest people when they're going through their fitness journey. I underwent, so I had signed up on Fitter and had gone through a physical fitness journey as well. In fact, I'd reached around 105 kgs. I managed to come down to 85, 86. So for me, my first breakthrough was that I could actually bend and touch my toes, right? So that was the moment. It was like a major breakthrough. I realized, yes, I can do it, right? I realized that I could walk longer, or I could finish more laps. So these are the sort of breakthroughs that would reinforce the confidence in the process. So each of us, we can find it. It's not very complex, right? And we should work towards that next small win till the time we have a grip on the entire process.
And what about setbacks or lapses? Like, how can individuals get back on track and continue building their fitness habits in case of setbacks?
We have to accept that there will be a lot of setbacks. It is impossible to go through any transformation journey without setbacks. If you're not failing, you're not doing it right. You're playing it too safe. You have set so easy goals that the actual transformation will not happen. So we have to accept that it will happen. And when it happens, we will feel upset about it. We will feel dejected. It is very easy to say it's not working and give up. But the moment we accept that this is a part of the process, and it's okay to feel dejected about that. It's okay to feel upset. It's okay to feel angry that this is not working. Um, and in fact, for some people, it also helps to find a way to blow off some steam and come back to the journey. What's important is to show up, right? What's important is to come back. I failed 4 times before I finally managed to stick to my mindfulness practice, right? So I know that it is very easy to feel that this is not working and give up. Not giving up is the only way to manage those setbacks.
Mhm. Okay, so with this, we almost come to the end of today's session. To conclude with, what advice do you have for someone who wants to initiate a fitness journey but feels overwhelmed by the prospect of habit building?
Okay, so it's a simple process, not easy but simple. So what needs to be done is, number one, define your why. Why I am doing it. If I don't do it, what is the cost? What am I going to lose? So the more vivid that description is, the more, if I journal it, if I try and define it in clear terms, my commitment to that purpose grows. So first thing is to do that. We all think about the cost of doing it, effort, time, energy, money, all of that. But we don't actually define the cost of not doing it. So the cost of inaction needs to be defined. So all of us should do that first, even before we think about habit building. The second thing is to understand the process of habit building. That pick a small habit, something that should not require more than 3, 5, 7, 10 minutes, not something which is not extremely difficult. So lower the entry barrier for yourself. So that's the second important piece. While we can keep challenging ourselves to do more of that, but initially that's the idea. Third is to track your streaks. I have a whiteboard at my house as well, and I would go and cross that off, that okay, my streaks are happening. Even though the app would do it, actually physically doing it was very rewarding for me. So something of that sort, building your own ritual is again going to be important. And fourth, be prepared to fail. Your streak breaks, no problem. Start from zero. Go ahead, start doing it, right? And finally, if you can find a companion to do it with yourself, great. Otherwise, like Tagore said, akla chalo. So go by, and then you keep doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, Ashish, thank you so much for your valuable insights. I had a great time talking to you, and I got to learn a lot of things as well. So, I hope even you had a great time talking.
Absolutely. It was lovely talking to you, Dipchi. Thank you so much for inviting me. Hope this was of value.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage Fit Corporate Wellness Podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and our YouTube channel for new episodes.